What is up, guys? Mika here, the Traveling Tarot, with the first ever Tarot Circle Divine Guidance meetup. So, obviously, the holidays, I did have a few people that were interested. So, what I'm going to do is just go ahead and do like kind of an overview of tarot for those who are interested in learning more about it and understanding it. One of the things that is really funny to me is how the word tarot is almost like a loaded word. So when someone is watching, sometimes when someone is watching a reading of mine, they neglect to hear the words I'm using, like self love or abundance or taking care of yourself or taking care of others or love in general, because the word tarot is attached to it. So it's almost like using the word God or love. Even your beliefs start to come into play, and it doesn't let you actually hear the meaning. So what I'd like to do is just kind of give you an overview of what tarot is and give you a little bit of information on how I got started with tarot. um, so first I'm going to just start with, and I do have some notes, so I'll just be referring back and forth because I want to make sure that it's clear and thorough, so that anybody who finds this video even after the fact can go ahead and weigh in, and just know that we do this at 7 p.m. from 7 to 8:30 on Mondays every week. It's on Zoom because I really want the interaction. So and my vision is to have a safe space for people who are interested, want to know more, seasoned, beginners, people who want to know how to use this valuable tool to navigate the ins and outs of life. Okay, we are in such an age of awakening now that we're finding out that some of the stuff that we thought about things just simply wasn't true. And so I would like to shed a light on my perspective of tarot. Okay, so the first question is definitely going to be, what is tarot? And so I invite you to answer this question in the comments. What is your impression of tarot, and why? Why have you, why do you feel this way specifically about tarot? I know that the way that it's portrayed in the media and the way that, just the way that it's perceived, like I say, I mean, if I'm saying words like self love and I'm saying words like take care of each other and I love you, how could that be satanic? But again, people are living their own perspectives, and literally up until I started to use this tool, I didn't really understand it, because I also was going by what I had learned about it. I was raised devout Christian, so this sort of thing is completely out when it comes to religion. And so all I do know is ever since I started using it, it I feel the closest I've ever felt to spirit. I feel like I'm getting direct information, because it is not just, it's not about fortune telling. And I think that's the biggest misconception, is that you think, oh, with these cards, I'm going to tell your future. And that's not what I use them for. And I'm not saying that the people that are using them for that are not telling the truth, because we are living our own perspectives. And if they believe it, it's true. But I use it to understand the energy. I use it to understand the clarity. Each card has has lots of symbols on it, specific meanings. It has numbers. It's associated with a zodiac sign and a planet. And so once you understand at least the traditional meanings of those things, you can start to understand why this, because that's really what tarot is. That's what a tarot reader does. A tarot reader is not about to tell you the future. Some of them, like I said, whatever people think they are, they are. So if you think you're doing that, then you probably are. I believe that. But a tarot reader is meant, in my opinion, to help you understand why this card specifically showed up in response to your question. And it's very much a beautiful tool to connect you back, to connect you with your intuition, and to help you feel like you're being guided, and that you are being answered, to be honest. And again, it may not resonate with everybody, and I'm certainly not saying everybody should, become a tarot reader. No, I'm just letting you know what worked for me, and I'm a big fan of sharing what works for you, because things are gonna resonate with people differently. And my only thing is whatever gets you back to who you truly are, do that endlessly. Okay, so please please expand on this discussion if you do have some type of opinion. I'm open to whatever the perspectives are, because I understand that people are living their different perspectives. But for me, I was, I had gotten a reading done one night when I was in a recording studio from one of the producers. And I was kind of, and I loved it because I've always been interested in this kind of stuff. And I was crazy about somebody at the time, and it was confirming everything that I was feeling. And I went later and watched some. This is when I discovered that YouTube even had people reading tarot. I discovered some tarot readings, and I'm like, wait, that's what he said. Not reading, like, wait, this is not changing. Like, this is the information that he gave me. It may have come out in a different card, but it was being said in the same way. And so that got me a lot more interested in tarot. Cut to, maybe 6 months to a year later, and I'm literally in the worst dark night of the soul of my life. And I'm like literally rock bottom type shit. And I'm hitting every fucking wall, just trying to figure out what to do, honestly. And so I started watching those readings again on YouTube. I was living in a homeless shelter. I was, I had a temporary job at the time. I was riding the bus. It was just a really tough time. But now I understand that was my dark night of the soul. That was one of the major cycles for me closing. And honestly, tarot helped me understand that, because I started watching videos and I was starting to feel better, because not only was it confirming what I inherently knew was true, but I could see evidence of my vibration shifting, because it does happen fast. And so I was obsessed. I was like, okay, now I need to know. I need to understand how to use this tool, how to use this for my own life. And I wasn't even considering doing it for other people, but I just wanted to figure out how to use it. And so I got every book. I mean, if people have been to my house, or if you can even see my desk right now, there's 20 decks minimum right here, but I had more. And I'm actually giving some decks away at the first in-person event, because I went through and cleared out, and I have about 20 or 30 decks that I'm looking to give away. So if you do comment about your impression on tarot, or why you would even want to understand it, or if you're interested in understanding it, yeah, I would love to do some type of a drawing or giveaway, because I firmly believe that tarot cards are, it's an energetic exchange. I believe that if I give you this deck, there's a reason and a message in it for you, and that might start you on your own spiritual journey, path, whatever. But so yeah, leave that in the comments, what your impression of tarot is and why you feel that way about it. And yeah, we'll see. We'll just start to slowly pick apart each week why. And what I'm hoping is that eventually we'll get seasoned readers on here, and just beginners and seasons interacting and helping us understand. Because while there are traditional meanings to the cards, and we're going to start, because I think it's a very valuable foundation to understand the traditional Rider-Waite deck, which is the most common deck here, where you have, the Rider-Waite illustrations and symbols and stuff. That's only the beginning, because to read intuitively, it's like, now you need to understand why the Fool is showing up in response to that question. And it's since it's energetic, or there's a lot of variables. Yeah, on the surface, if it's one card, the Fool might mean new beginnings or innocence or stepping out on faith or even being a little irresponsible. But if it's showing up next to something else, that would be the answer as to why. Or if it's showing up in a certain position, and we'll get into spreads a little bit later on. Hopefully in this episode. If not, then next week we'll definitely get into the different spreads. But yeah, so it's an ancient tool for reflection and self discovery. It allows us to explore life's questions, challenges, and mysteries. And like I said, for me, it just helped me feel like I was being responded to. And it was confirming what I was feeling, what I was thinking, what I knew to be true. And so it was slowly changing my vibration to a point where now I'm using this tool to help other people and to still help myself. Every day almost I pull a card so that I can just see kind of where I should focus or where the energy's at, or if I am feeling a certain way in the morning, I will pull a card and be like, okay, what's going on here? And that's when your intuition will come in, because that there are no coincidences. So shuffling the cards, which is one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of just the flippers instead of pulling cards, although either way, whatever you're comfortable with. I'm a big fan of the flippers or the cards that jump out because those feel like direct answers. And typically they are. And they're cohesive with the other cards that fall out as well. Okay. And I'm sorry if you guys hear my dog Bear barking. People can't walk by our place without them freaking out. So tarot cards are made up of 78 cards. Okay. And so that's how you're going to know you're dealing with tarot cards instead of, for instance, oracle cards. Oracle cards typically have images and messages, and I love oracle cards. As a matter of fact, I use multiple decks because I like the spiritual mic drop. I like for spirit to give me two fools and say, look, I mean this. But I also love that the oracle cards are really great at giving you an overarching energy or sort of pulling all of the reading together. Okay. And again, it's all about your preference. And I do recommend, if you're a beginner, to start with the Rider-Waite images, because again, they're the most commonly known, most commonly used. And once you get familiar with the keywords, then you can start looking at other decks. For instance, I have many, but this is the Good Karma deck. So as you can see, this is the Fool in the Good Karma deck. And so the energy is the same, but the imagery is a little bit different. And so sometimes, like when I'm meditating or when I'm about to do a reading and I see which deck they want me to use, it'll pop into my head and then I'll go here. And it's because there's a specific reason why this Fool is the one that I needed to see. They're virtually the same, but they're slightly different when you're dealing with different images. So if you're just starting out, I would recommend the Rider-Waite, and most of the interpretations are based on that. Okay. So let's see, what else do I have? We have 22 major arcana. Now the major arcana cards, I pulled these out because more than likely we're only going to be able to get through a few of these today, if we can get to them. 22 cards. Okay. They typically call it the Fool's Journey because it begins with the Fool, which is the beginning, and it ends with the World, which is the end, completion, right before you go back on the journey again. So one of the most valuable things that I did, and we'll do this probably in the next class, or especially when we get into the minor arcana, we're just going to lay out the cards and see the journey, because if you look at it, you'll see the whole story. And it's really kind of interesting, the progression that you see, because you can see, even with things like the Death card that show up, or the Devil card, or even the Star, you can see that progression, or even the Tower. You can see why, because things are getting ramped up with that Devil energy. So the tower has to come in. Okay, so it's really, really a beautiful thing. And so the major arcanas are the major life events. They're like big lessons, spiritual growth. And again, they range from the Fool to the World, representing beginnings and all the way through to completion. Now we do have the minor arcana cards, which are going to be divided into four suits. We have the wands, the cups, the swords, and the pentacles. Okay. And they range from the ace of wands all the way to the 10 of wands. And then there's four court cards. You have the page, the knight, the queen, and the king. Okay. And they all represent, those court cards can represent people, they can represent archetypes, they can represent, again, it really just depends on the spread. Right now, we're just going over the basics so that you can even just understand what you're looking at. Okay, because it can get as deep as you want it to get, especially when you start to understand because I made little flashcards, the zodiac signs that are associated with it, because like I said, with the minor arcana, there are 56 cards. They're divided into those four suits. And so each suit represents an energy, okay? And so it focuses on more like everyday themes. The suits represent elements and aspects of life, okay? So you would say the cups represent your emotions or your creativity, okay? The wands represent action or inspiration. The swords represent ideas or thoughts or perspectives, and as well as taking action on those ideas. And pentacles represent earth. So it's about your physical world and very much about money, but not just about money. It's about earth energy, anything that's happening in your physical world, your physical body, your physical relationships, things like that. Okay. And so it's also important to understand the association. Again, the cup's energy is about emotions. So that is associated with the water signs because water represents emotions. So you have your Cancer, you have Pisces, and you have Scorpio. They all represent water signs. Then you have your fire signs, which are all about action, confidence, passion, inspiration. You've got Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Then you have your earth energy, which is Virgo, Taurus, and your Pentacles, which is Virgo, Taurus, and Capricorn. And then you have your air energy, which is Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra. Okay. And so it's important to understand these because when you're reading tarot, you have, like, for instance, you might have the high priestess here, but you'll notice that she's the number 2. So you're going to have a number associated with it. Or again, if it's a court card, you're going to have a court, someone from the court associated with it. And that lets you know what element that you're dealing with. So for instance, if you see that there's a king of wands, kings represent mastery because they would be like that completion, like mastery, basically, like, and then if you're the king of wands, then you're a confident, passionate leader. You're leading with your passion. Okay. And again, that's just like loosely based. These are just common traditional definitions that can very much change and can very much be based on the reader's perspective, because I might see a dog in this which represents a spirit guide, or even just spirit, or even playfulness. It really just depends. Again, I might see a dog here, but somebody who's afraid of dogs might see that, read that differently, and think that dog's about to push him off the cliff. I'm just saying, it's all about understanding that everyone has their own perspective based on what they've experienced. And so, to get a little bit more depth before we jump into the actual cards, we have Leo, which is creative and confident, but they can also be stubborn, arrogant, and dominant. We have Sagittarius, which is intelligent, boisterous, adventurous, outspoken, but they can also be impulsive, reckless, and tactless. And then we have Aries, which is passionate and ambitious, but they can also be impulsive, impatient, and make rash decisions. So the thing about fire energy is a lot of the times they move on inspiration, and so there can be an element of recklessness or arrogance because they're like, we got this. And so they do typically. I love a Leo. Don't even be started. Okay. But the next ones we have are Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. Okay, so Aquariuses are unique and they're independent. And what I love about Aquariuses is they're all about community. They're all about everyone's the collective good. They can also be detached, rebellious, and aloof, according to my notes. Then we have the Gemini, okay, and they're very communicative. Okay, they're excellent writers. They are, they represent innocence and innovation, but they can also be indecisive. Don't even get me started. Restless and a bit superficial, okay? Because look, each side of things has a light and a dark. You could get the Sun card and it's the most positive card in the deck, but if it's in a challenge position or if it's next to something else, that means that could represent you being arrogant or too confident or too something. It just really depends. That's why there's no real rhyme or reason to it, to be honest. And then we have the Libra, who is all about harmony. They're ruled by Venus. They love balance. In fact, the Justice card is a Libra card. They're diplomatic. They are charming, but they could also be indecisive, avoidant, and they're people pleasers. And again, this is no hard and fast rule. People are different, and when it comes to your charts, there's a lot of different variables there. But it's helpful to understand, when you see a fire sign, what that means. So we have Virgo, Taurus, and Capricorn. These are the earth signs. Virgo is helpful, respectful, and practical, but they could also be perfectionist, criticizing, and hypochondriacs. I have Virgo rising, that's why I'm laughing. But Virgos are very interested in how they are perceived. So they want to be perceived as having it together. And so that's on the other side is why that perfectionist can show up. We have Taurus showing up. They're calm, loyal, and they're also ruled by Venus. So they like structure. They can also be somewhat detached. We have stubborn, possessive, and materialistic, but they love beauty. And to be honest, I feel like Taurus is one of the more free flowing of the earth signs because they do like beauty. They like, opulence. They like that sort of thing. And then we have Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn, which is all about structure and restriction and limitations, but they are reliable and they are very intentional. They can be pessimistic, unforgiving, and workaholics. And again, just from the ones that I know, it's pretty spot on. And then the last we have the cups, which is Pisces. Which is water, which is the water signs. We have Pisces. They are very, very great at seeing the picture. They can be emotional. They can have a victim mindset. And escapists, okay? And they can be a little volatile in terms of their emotions. So they can, take criticism a little bit too personally sometimes. And then we have Scorpio, which is magnetic. They're deep. They're all about transformation. And they can also be jealous, controlling, and secretive. Then we have Cancer, which is me, which is perfect, of course, right? Cozy, caring, and nurturing. Now, on the flip side, we can be oversensitive, moody, and clingy. And so some of the Cancers are like that. I have a lot of Leo in my chart, so I am fire and water, and it's perfect sense. All right, so I'm going to go ahead because these cards actually have keywords on them. So I'm just going to run through the major arcana and give you an idea of what each card means based on the keywords that they have here. And these are based on the Rider-Waite deck, but they're black and white, which is why I got these out, so that when we start looking at the symbols, you can really, really, really see, because it's not that clear on these cards. But the start of the Fool's journey is about new beginnings, possibilities, innocence, spontaneity, optimism, trusting in life, blind faith, adventure, and new opportunities. And the affirmation is spread your wings and fly, because you're starting your journey. You're enthusiastic. You have this beginner's mindset in a lot of cases, because whatever cycle you just came out of, you've reflected, and now you're moving into the new cycle with your new kind of mindset and your new ideas, and you're excited about this new adventure. Okay, and then we have the Magician, which is the one card. Okay, so it's important to note that there's 22 cards in the major arcana, but it starts with 0 because the Fool represents nothing and everything. It's the absolute beginning, and so you are literally beginning the journey. It's the very beginning of everything. So it's blind faith. It's stepping out on faith, and then you move into becoming the Magician, and he's all about alchemy. If you can see on the Magician card, he has earth, cups, swords, and wands at his disposal, and he's beginning to grow his abundance. And the way that he's pointing up is saying, as above, so below. So he's using his infinite self, which is why infinity is his infinite abilities, to create. And it says, action, creation. He represents manifestation, power, self-confidence, clarity, willpower, skill, and creativity. And it says, anything you can imagine, you can make real. He represents bringing bringing the spiritual ideas and things into the physical world, and using all the forces, earth, fire, water, elements, to do so. And so that's the second one. And he's actually the one card that brings you to the High Priestess. The High Priestess represents intuition, sacred knowledge, subconscious spirituality, divine feminine, high morals, trusting yourself, wisdom, secrets, mystery, and hidden knowledge. Okay, it says trust your own counsel first. And so the reason why it's the next card on the Fool's journey is because you're starting out on this journey, you're realizing that you have all you need, and now you're tapping into your intuition or your hidden knowledge so that we move into the Empress, so that you can create. The Empress represents abundance, nurturing, fertility, feminine, good parenting, development, accomplishment, growth, evolution, and action. Okay, so now you are using your intuition to move into a more abundant, because the Empress also represents potential and potential energy, basically like the energy before it's fully formed into something. Okay, but it does follow with the emperor, who does end up becoming a lot more firm in its sorry, solidifies that sorry, I got sidetracked by thought. But he's the king of kings, so he's obtained some type of control over this energy, or control over his mindset, or control over his intuition. He's able to guide the energy with this, okay? And he represents respect, leadership, stability, structure, rules, and power. He's a father figure archetype. He would be very close to like any of the kings really, but like the King of Pentacles is the one that really stands out the most. He's an authority. He represents focus, protection, control, discipline, and practicality. Okay, and so the next one would be the Hierophant, and the Hierophant represents tradition. It represents institutions, religion, faith, having faith, society, societal approval, and also can represent conformity, but it does represent trust, faith, forgiveness, wisdom, and it can represent that there's a high level commitment of some sort coming in, okay? And that could be why it's the next step on the fool's journey, because you're the emperor, you're owning your space with confidence, you're getting more confident in what you're doing and creating. And so you're understanding that your higher beliefs and values, and you're able to set those personal boundaries based on your values, because that's the other thing the Hierophant represents, is tradition, your values, the things that you seek. Now, intuitively, when I see this card, because he does have people listening, it feels like you're being heard, okay? And again, we'll get deeper into what else a card could mean besides these traditional meanings. Let me see what time it is here.